How's it going, everyone? This is Miles with Windows Central Gaming, and welcome to the 44th episode of Xbox Chaturdays. Today, I am stoked to be joined by a fellow Mega Man sufferer and one half of the Beef and Cheddar Boys, Mike Minotti of GamesBeat. Mike, how you doing on this fine Saturday?
I'm great. It's Saturday, so how can I not be great?
I'm stoked to have you on. We have an amazing show lined up. We're going to be talking about the Xbox mini fridge, talking about meme marketing. We're going to be talking about the current state of game reviews and so much more. But before we dive into all of that, Mike, for the lovely people joining us today, give us a quick breakdown of who you are, where they can find you, and why you love gaming.
Well, I am Mike Minotti. I am the reviews editor over at GamesBeat, where I co-host the Last of the Nintendogs podcast and GamesBeat Decides. I do both of those with my buddy and coworker Jeff Grubb. You can find me on Twitter at Tokoto, Tolkoto. That is a hanger-on for my embarrassing youth when I mishmashed Tolkien and Shigeru Miyamoto, and I decided that was going to be my handle because I have no shame. And I also do a Disney podcast called 90s Disney, which you can guess what that is about, and that's at 90sdisney.com.
Beautiful. So again, this is normally a game I reserve for returning guests, but we've talked a lot online. You seem like a good sport. So what we're going to do here, I want you to list your 3 favorite games and or franchises.
Cool. Well, okay, so 2 of them are big franchise games. So like my number 1 favorite game is Mega Man 3. You can also just say the Mega Man franchise. But yeah, we were talking about Mega Man already, and I love a lot of Mega Man games. 2's great, X is great, 9's great, but 3 is always been my number 1. That's the one I play a ton of. God knows how many times I've played through it. It's the one that I've like taken the effort to like try to beat it without dying. Maybe someday I'll try to go for that no hit run. That'll be exciting. But Snake Man, that's the best. That's the best Robot Master in that series. And the song in that level. And Proto Man, when I was 3, I thought Proto Man was the coolest character in the world. And it turns out I was right. And then number 2, this is kind of interesting because it always used to be like Final Fantasy 9 was my favorite Final Fantasy. If we just want to say series, we'd say that. But now it's Final Fantasy 14. I have been playing
Oh,
that MMO to death this year and have not gotten even an ounce sick of it yet. I've been absolutely loving it. I'm so excited for Endwalker coming out next month. I'm been leveling Astrology now, which is like this. It's basically Yu-Gi-Oh healer. Like you pick these cards out and you can like give your allies buffs based on what cards you pick while healing them, doing all this star-based stuff, and it just looks really cool and it's really fun. And I kind of made my little guy look like Mickey from Fantasia, so I just absolutely love it. And then number 3, this might be number 2 too. And this isn't a franchise one, but I loved the LucasArts adventure games when I was a kid. So like the Monkey Islands, the Day of the Tentacle, and Grim Fandango was my favorite out of all of those. So that's just this really good adventure game set in the Mexican underworld. Just beautiful atmospheres, really ahead of its time for 1998. Just incredible stuff. Something that even though it's very linear and it's basically just a story, I play through that one constantly still. So yeah, we'll go Mega Man 3, Final Fantasy 14, and Grim Fandango. We could throw Mario 64 pretty close in there as a runner up.
beautiful.
Or Mario Odyssey.
Solid list. Now, this is where things get a little interesting here. So what I
Mm.
want you to do with these 3 games and or franchises, I want you to pick one that goes away forever, doesn't exist. And then
Oh
I want
no.
you to pick another one that still exists and everyone else in the world can play it except for you.
Wow. Oh, that is rough. Oh my gosh. That's hard because those are very formulative games, right? Like when I was 12, I had a Monkey Island website on what GeoCities or whatever.
Yes,
That's how much I
yes.
love the LucasArts adventure games. So it's like I don't think I would have become a hardcore gamer without Grim Fandango. I probably wouldn't have become a gamer at all without Mega Man. And then Final Fantasy 14, I don't want to go away because that's just something I could play so much of. Oof, I feel like I okay. So since there's so many other Mega Mans, maybe I'll cheat and use that as a logic to get rid of Mega Man. As much as I hate that, Just Mega Man 3. I'll get rid of Mega Man 3.
Okay,
Mega Man 2
okay,
will become my new favorite or something. I'll be okay. I'll
okay.
live. It upsets me greatly thinking about this, but you put this evil in me, and now I have to think of something. And then I feel like Grim Fandango is too important. I want everybody else at least to be able to enjoy it. So I'll keep that in the world, and I'll go be banished to the ether realm where I can't access it anymore. And then Final Fantasy 14, I just get to keep playing like I do every day because it's made my life better, and I don't want to say goodbye.
Beautiful. Thanks for being an amazing sport. It's a little mean-spirited game, but it's fun, and it gives everybody tuning in a good idea of, you know, what goes on inside Mike's brain. Why does he love the games he loves? So
Nobody
appreciate
nobody
that.
wants to know what's going on in my brain, but it's fun.
Gonna give a quick shout out to all the amazing people tuning in. I see Binyabik in the chat. I see Donnie. I see Mr. Joanna Dark. Thanks for tuning in. We have a really cool show. So the first topic we're gonna transition into today is the Xbox Mini Fridge. The meme that has become a reality and is now available. You can start pre-ordering this on October 19th for $100. And it's fascinating that Xbox took this instantaneous viral joke about what their console looks like and is now selling you that joke for $100.
Yeah,
So,
imagine if Sony actually made a PlayStation 3 grill, right? Like that's exactly the same thing here.
or yeah, if we had a PS5 air purifier or a PS5 wireless router, like that is this level. So what I want to know, Mike, is where do you stand with this whole kind of phenomenon, like the meme to the product that people can now buy this holiday season?
Oh, I think it's fantastic. That was a lesson I learned as a kid, right? Is that when people are making fun of you, you have to laugh with them. Then you're in on the joke, and then it's fine, right? Then people like you can make friends, your life's going to be a lot better, right? It's better to be self-deprecating than to have too much pride and be friendless. So now taking that to a corporate level, I think this is very smart, right? Now nobody really complains about the Xbox Series X looking like an ugly box. Even though, like, in some sense, it kind of is an ugly box. But now I like that ugly box because it's like this gag I'm in on. And now I can get this fridge. And you know what? I don't have a mini fridge in my office. It would be a nice place to put my mini Coca Colas instead of having to lug myself all the way to the kitchen. So yeah, I'm 100% supportive of this.
Yeah, I remember when the console was first revealed and we saw the form factor, and I think we were all on the same page as to what is this? This isn't a console. We've never seen a console like this. It's a glorified shoebox, essentially. Like it is just a box. So yes, the memes exploded. We saw the SpongeBob brick, we saw the refrigerator meme, and it is an incredibly smart business move for Xbox to embrace that meme and market that meme. Because as we've seen with Xbox, PlayStation, and Nintendo, Xbox has kind of become the cool kids on the marketing side. They're more in tune with what the kids are doing on social media, and they're in on the
Hmm.
joke. So I think this is amazing. I got one of the Zoa when they did the promotions. I have an Xbox Series X mini fridge already, but I'm excited for people to have a chance to buy it if they want it. Are you picking one up? Are you spending the $100?
No, I'm not gonna spend $100. Although I have a birthday in December. I don't know.
Oh,
Maybe one of
okay.
my brothers is listening. They'll pull together, get my that could be my big family gift. Maybe if they actually love me, we'll see. You know what I really want? I need a GameCube lunchbox now. Let's make that one happen after all these years.
Yeah, come on. Embrace the if the memes lead to things like this, let's go. I am
Right.
all in.
It's just a
Um,
product you can sell. Like it's a win-win.
Exactly. So let's talk a little bit about the dynamics between Xbox, PlayStation, and Nintendo on the kind of marketing front.
Hmm.
Xbox this year in particular, we've seen really go all in on marketing for Xbox, especially with the 20th anniversary. We're seeing Adidas crossovers. We're seeing a lot of investment into Xbox as a brand in a way that's hip and relatable. And we haven't really seen that from PlayStation or Nintendo. Do you think because they are legacy brands that they even need to bother? Or do you think they could take a page out of Xbox's kind of new approach?
I mean, I think they can bother. I mean, it's funny at this point. The Xbox isn't that much newer a brand than PlayStation, right? But even like I'm still
No.
like you, right? I still feel like it is, right? I feel like there's this major separation between the two. But no, it's goodwill counts for so much of these things, and you got Nintendo especially has a problem with it because they can sometimes see aggressively anti-consumer in some ways, like releasing a new online subscription tiers that are way too expensive, or aggressively going after fan games that they really don't need to. And then with Sony, Sony still always has that shadow of the PlayStation 3 era looming over them, where the big talking point was, wow, Sony is so arrogant. And anytime they do something wrong, that's what you hear is, wow, this is like PlayStation 3 era Sony again, right?
Mhm.
Company that's taking itself too seriously, and it's just kind of making these decisions again that just seem to only come from boardrooms that don't have actual gamers in mind.
Yeah, Sony still has a very corporate approach to their business strategy. And
Mm.
in some ways, the marketing kind of represents that. We see Jim Ryan, especially, letting the world know blatantly that this is a business. Sony and PlayStation, they are a business. They are trying to make money. And again, fundamentally, we know that. We all know all these companies, as much as
Sure.
Xbox wants to seem like our buddy, they want to make money off us. PlayStation doesn't eye that. They say, we are a business, we are making money. Here's how we're going to make money. And there is this corporate approach to it. And when you compare that to everything else in the gaming space, where gaming is becoming more mainstream, gaming is becoming more cool. You and I know growing up that gaming wasn't necessarily that cool. And now
Sure.
gaming is cool, but we have brands who like PlayStation and 10, I guess more so PlayStation, that just look at it as this sector of the big Sony business.
And Microsoft has a bit of an advantage here, right? Because they can play it a little cool because their entire business doesn't depend on gaming as much as a Sony does, or a Nintendo does when it's all that they have. Microsoft's this giant, giant company. If they lose money on Xbox for a few years, they're going to make plenty of money on other things that
That's
they're
true.
going to be fine. Whereas Sony's not making that Walkman money anymore.
Oh, take me back. Take me back to the Walkman. All right. So I'm gonna before we talk into the next little section of this, gonna give a quick shout out to the 100 folks tuning in already. If you guys are digging the show, hit that like button, share it out. If you are new to the show, we are live every Saturday at 12 p.m. Eastern time. So part of this conversation about, hip gaming brands on social media, I want to pick your brain on where you stand with this approach, because we are seeing more and more companies kind of cater to that, and in some cases pander to that. Specifically, I want to talk about KFC gaming, because I don't know if I'm the only one, but I am really sick of the edgy gaming brand on Twitter.
Yeah, I mean, I think it look, silence brands, right? And I get it. I mean, it is a corporation that's trying to be like, hey, hello, fellow gamers, we are friends,
Exactly.
right?
That's
And
exactly
sometimes,
it.
but sometimes it works, right? Like the Sonic the Hedgehog Twitter account has always been great. I think the Arby's Twitter account has been fun. Although, of course, I'm saying that I'm a beef and cheddar boy. But yeah, you have companies that just aren't as good at it, or they have a weird approach, like KFC's like weird, like angsty, like yeah, like bizarre, angry gamer thing, and they just say things that are so misinformed, like with Back for Blood, calling it a cheap knockoff of Left for Dead, which like weird that you're even trying to be mean spirited. Anyways, you're KFC, just make chicken. But then, like that, you're also wrong because it's the same people making those games. They can't be copying themselves. And it's like, so now I get extra cynical. I'm like, do they know what they're doing? They just try to get people angry and riled up because any engagement is good engagement.
That's kind of where I'm at, because if we're talking about that Back for Blood with the Left for Dead image, and then to the right was Back for Blood, and it said every masterpiece has its cheap knockoff, and you know, I know they maybe aren't 100% aware, but then I also think maybe they are, because they did this the day that Back for Blood came out. They put out that
Mhm.
tweet, knowing full well this was going to rile some people up. And like you said, are they doing this just to get the engagement? And because they've done that in the past, where they're like, this franchise makes this franchise suck, and it's like, come on, like,
Right, yeah, it's weird. Like usually these things aren't mean spirited or like negative, right? It's usually what is your favorite video game, or look, we made a picture of Mega Man out of cardboard boxes at Arby's, right? It's like pleasant stuff like that, and here it's just like this one thing sucks, and we're KFC.
KFC
Okay,
gaming. May I
yeah,
remind you?
That's the weird thing too, that they made a separate channel for it, right? Like Arby's just talks about video games on the main Arby's account, and like KFC's like, and they pretended they made a KFC console, or maybe they actually did. I don't know what's real anymore. The whole KFC thing is weird. It has not made me get any more KFC chicken. I can tell you that.
No, I'm sorry, and I don't mean to, slander KFC on a live channel, but every time I eat at KFC, I feel like 1 year has been taken off my life. Like, I feel so bad every time. It's been probably, not exaggerating, like 7 years since I've had it.
Yeah, I
Be
used to get it in college a lot just because it was at the food court. But I mean, there's so many good chicken places now. You can get your Popeyes, you can get your Raisin Canes, all sorts of stuff. Or you know who also actually has pretty good fried chicken if you want some tendies is Arby's.
You're in Arby's pocket, you don't get a promo.
Look, it's still the truth, all right? We're
I'm just
talking about corporate Twitters. Okay, we can't act too high and mighty now.
All right, I'm gonna get to a couple super chats here. We got Nick Turbo who says, "Notice me, Mikey. Ooh."
Hey, yeah, Nick Turbo's a regular over at GamesBeat Decides and a moderator, actually. I just heard. Hi, Nick. Hi, it's nice seeing you. Yeah, he also begs me for attention like a puppy. So, yeah, attention, I notice you.
Yes, I notice you. Mr. Joanna Dark says hello to the goat and one half of the Bacon and Cheddar Boys. I'm excited about today's show. Also, vote for Miles Dompier for the Future Class 2021 at the Game Awards. Thank you,
Oh my
Mr.
gosh.
Joanna Dark.
You're already in the present class in my heart, Miles.
That's beautiful. That's Donnie. What if Sony sued Dbrand to sell you dark side plate? Oh yeah, some context for that. Dbrand put out black, basically face plates for the PlayStation and said, we don't care if Sony sues us, we're gonna sell these. And now Sony is taking legal action against them selling the face plates. So yeah. You poke the bear, you're gonna get some action. Even if they weren't going to originally, I bet somebody saw that and said, "Okay, can we do it?
Yeah, like,
Can we sue
yeah,
them?"
just release it. You don't have to say specifically, we don't care if we get sued. Just, okay, just think that part. You don't have to say that out loud.
That's a bold move, and they're paying the
Yes.
prices. Sorry, D brand. Space Dovahkiin says Dompier and Minotti doesn't get more exotic than this.
I'll tell you what, I've been called a lot of things in my life. I don't know if exotic is one of them. I think I can only eat so much Arby's and watch so much Frasier without being the most like milquetoast white guy on the planet. But thank you. I'll take exotic.
Makes me feel good. Makes me feel good that people consider us exotic, even though the furthest I've gone from my home is Florida. So
Well, hey, that gets you to Disney World. That's all you really need to go to. You go to Epcot, you get all the countries right there. You're fine.
you're good. Yeah, you can travel the world in one
Hmm.
location.
Yeah,
Yeah, Mr.
and get
Worldwide over
smashed.
here. Yeah,
Yeah, that's
drink as
right.
you walk. It's a beautiful thing.
Hmm.
Let's talk about Dragon Age 4 because
Okay.
GamesBeat and our good
Oh, you
pal
can't trust that site. You can't
yeah, I
trust
know.
that guy
We
either.
got Insider Jeff Grubb. He's talking about Dragon
Frequently
Age.
here.
Oh, here we go again. Get ready, Reddit. Get ready to call his bluff.
Yeah.
Jeff Grubb was basically reporting that Dragon Age 4 is completely ditching cross-gen. It won't support Xbox One. It won't support PS4. It's only launching on the Xbox Series X, PS5, and PC. To me, that is not surprising as they've already confirmed that for Dead Space, and the assumption is that Dragon Age 4 is not coming out in the immediate future.
Hmm.
So what I want to have a conversation with you about is when do we see cross-gen support dwindling completely away at this point?
I mean, I'm shocked it almost lasted as long as it did, to be honest. And I think console shortages are really the only reason why. We saw that this was a bad idea last year when a lot of these games were just selling so much better on Xbox One and PlayStation 4, right? Like there are games that came out on Xbox 360 that you forget came out on that system, like Destiny, right?
Oh
Destiny
yeah.
came out on Xbox 360. It's pretty nuts. So I'll tell you what, there are some games that are crossing the line that shock me. Gran Turismo 7 to me is the one that really surprises me. That game is going to come out later next year, maybe even get delayed, right? Because everything gets delayed. Like maybe that game's a holiday 2022 game, and it's Gran Turismo, which is all about graphics and fidelity, and that game's going to come out on the base PlayStation 4. That is shocking to me. So there is a line. I feel like we're already crossing it. So I'm not too surprised about games that feel like they are probably 2023 games. Or most optimistically early 2022. I'm not shocked that those aren't going to come out on the current systems. We know that games like Battlefield are struggling a little bit. At least that's what Jeff's been telling me. Maybe he's a liar about that too. About the development. Part of the reason why the delayed happen is because they are struggling getting it working right on the last gen consoles. And we saw Cyberpunk kind of just be like, well, just release it anyways. I mean, who really cares about the last gen consoles? Well, people are still going to buy it and get mad when it doesn't work,
Mm-hmm.
right? So
Yep.
we've seen this come back and bite a lot of people already trying to optimize these last gen versions, which were old. And those consoles, they kind of had weak hardware when they launched, anyways. And the mid gen refresh helped a bit. But nobody in the planet is having a fun time developing games for a base Xbox One in 2021.
No, it makes sense when we're looking at PlayStation 4 because we can draw a parallel to PlayStation 2. For years after the PlayStation 3 launch, there were brand new PS2 games because of how huge the install base was
Right.
for the PS2. So with PlayStation, the install base for the PS4 was massive. They had a huge generation. They pulled a lot of people in. PlayStation was a massive success. And now we're in a position where, there's console shortages. There's still a huge install base for the PS4. So fundamentally, it doesn't make sense from a business perspective to completely ditch that, knowing that you can only sell a maximum of X million copies. Jim Ryan's kind of talked about this in a recent interview with the gate, as he calls it, for certain console sales. And with a brand
Mhm.
new console, if you are doing true console exclusives, that is even less. But again, if you're a developer, there are some hurdles, as we're hearing more about. We're seeing more. Um, a lot of developers, I'm sure, just want to be done. They don't want to develop for the base Xbox One, the base PS4 anymore. They want to move on to bigger and bolder things.
Yeah, but I think Sony's already kind of found the better solution here, and it's something Microsoft's been doing too. PC, just release the games on PC also, and that'll open you up to a much larger audience. And we're getting to a point where I think most people who care about gaming have a PC that's at least as powerful as a PlayStation 4 was.
Yeah, you can, and if you don't have one, you can get one for incredibly cheap now at this point.
Mhm.
So do you think PlayStation has kind of bit themselves in the ass by committing to this console exclusive approach with the PS5?
I don't know if they bit themselves in the ass because I don't know how much it's ultimately going to hurt them, but I think it is going to hurt them. I mean, maybe Horizon could have been a holiday game this year if they didn't have to work on that PlayStation 4 version at the same time. Uh, so like maybe in God of War, is that also coming out on PlayStation 4? I can't remember where the line was, or is that the first one
God of
that's
War, I
going to be?
believe, is also chat. Correct us if we're wrong, but I'm pretty sure that's also PS.
Right. So and that game had a big delay. And I know part of it they said was because the voice actor was in the hospital or something, but I don't
Hmm.
really think that was like that was maybe a factor. I find it hard to believe that was like the factor here, just with, getting voice clipping done. So I think it hurts some. Probably not a big deal. Again, Gran Turismo is the one that seems bizarre to me because now people are gonna because that game depends so much on graphics, right? And now people are gonna be able to like clip base PlayStation 4 versions and like say, hey, look, here's Gran Turismo 7. It doesn't look that good or stuff like that. Maybe the message gets confused. Maybe that's me overthinking things, but I don't know. I don't get it.
It'll be really interesting to see with the whole racing dynamic because we have Forza Horizon 5 dropping
Right.
this year, and that is cross gen as well. And like what we've seen on PC and the Series X versions, that game looks absurd. That game looks ridiculously good. So I'm really curious to see how it looks and performs on the base Xbox One. Forza Horizon 4 looked incredible on the Xbox One
Mhm.
X. So people can do it. It's not a matter of that it's impossible per se, but it gets a lot more complicated. And I'm sure it's just easier to lean into the new hardware to do what you want to do.
Yeah, you're right. I am, but I'm like excited already for that Digital Foundry video just on the new Forza Horizon. Just seeing the difference there because like this looks like it's going to be the best looking console game ever, basically. And
Yeah,
it's somehow there's going to be a version coming out for the Xbox One. I'm like, what does the best looking console game now look like on a machine that came out what 8 years ago? This is nuts.
just listening to them talk about how each individual like needle on the cactus is rendered.
Mhm.
I'm fascinated to see how that looks and performs on Xbox One. There's a lot. from a technical standpoint going into Forza Horizon 5, and it's a technological miracle that it's going to be running at all on the Xbox One, I feel like.
Hmm.
Super chat here from Harji Chani, who says, haven't both platforms sold more consoles at a faster pace this gen over last? I know there's a shortage, but should the install base be a thing? I'll turn
Yeah,
it
I
over
mean
to you first.
yeah, it is true, and I've also wondered that whenever people kind of because I will say like just make them for the new consoles because wait, last time they did this, the new console versions just sold better anyway because people just want to wait, and people yell at me about shortages and stuff, but then yeah, you look at the numbers and the new consoles are still selling better anyways. I think the demand is just so loud for it that you still get worried about like scarcity, right? Like it almost feels like less people have these consoles than really than or it feels like less people have these consoles than actually do sometimes. And I think maybe that even trickles down to the publishers and they freak out about releasing, this game that costs hundreds of millions of dollars on a system that even like all the people who want it can't actually buy yet.
Yes, I think that is the reality of the situation is gaming is bigger than it's ever been, and there's way more gaming potential than there's ever been before. So despite the fact that these consoles, on paper are selling better, um, if there weren't stock shortages, these would be selling way more and there would be way more potential for money. So it's just a matter of looking at the potential of the market and saying we could be doing this if we had the stock, and we are going to hurt ourselves because games, as we know, cost more and more to make. When you're making a humongous big budget game, the cost of that and the development cycle is taking longer and costing more money than it used to. So therefore, they need to sell more copies in order to sustain that business model.
Hmm.
Speaking of, kind of sales potential and growth, Xbox has hit a noticeable milestone in Japan with the Xbox Series X and S, and they have crossed 100,000 units since the launch of this console. Previously, with the Xbox One, this took 4 years to do. So basically, in a quarter of the time, they have hit this metric. What I want to ask you, Mike, is what are the factors that are contributing to this growth in Japan for Xbox?
Man, I'm not sure I completely know because everything I understand is that console gaming has been kind of slowing down in Japan, at least for PlayStation. Maybe that's just it. Maybe it's just people going away from PlayStation, and meanwhile, like the hardcore gamers have this interest in Xbox, or because there's shortages, maybe not everybody can get a PlayStation 5 anyway. So now they're going to Xbox because it's probably a lot easier to find in that country. Otherwise, I'm not really sure how to account for this. I mean, there's also just persistence, right? Like Microsoft could have just completely given up on this territory forever ago. And again, they can kind of afford not to. So maybe persistence is just paying off here.
Yeah, it's Xbox has struggled so hard in Japan, and it's especially with the launch of the original Xbox and early Xbox 360, we saw them really give it a go. We saw them committing to Japanese teams, getting cool Japanese exclusives, and trying to make the Xbox a cool platform in Japan. And I think when that didn't pan out in a huge way, towards the tail end of the 360 going to Xbox One, they weren't trying. They quite frankly didn't care about Japan. They weren't investing in those teams. And as we've seen in the current state of Xbox, that took a toll on who's bringing what games to the Xbox platform, which developers are supporting the Xbox platform. But it is fascinating to see this growth despite that, because Series S seems to be the huge runaway success. The Series S is selling way more than the Series X. And I think personally the price factor, as you've talked about, console
Mhm.
gaming in Japan is less exciting than it used to be. People are less interested, and that's hurt PlayStation a lot. But the Series S being this budget console and Game Pass opening up this kind of value sector, I think that is part of the huge appeal for the Japanese audience.
Yeah, and perspective still matters here a bit. It's not like this is a giant smash in Japan now. It's just
No,
gone from
no.
pathetic sales to now like, well, that's like not great, but hey, man, look where they were before. We'll take that.
Yeah, 100,000 consoles in 4 years is bad. That is an objectively bad generation for Xbox One. So to see them at least have some serious momentum kicking off this generation is exciting. And, I constantly complain about all but the all but factor with Xbox, where a lot of games come out on every single platform but Xbox. And that happens with so many JRPGs. And I'm hoping that with this investment and this, dedication to that market, that gap starts to dwindle a little bit.
Yeah, and we've been seeing that gap dwindle anyway, just because JRPGs have kind of been having a bigger audience in the US again, and part of that is because that audience, not not necessarily dwindling in Japan, but again, there a lot of people are playing mobile games now, so it's important suddenly to get Tales of Arise, to get Dragon Quest 11 on Xbox, just for fans outside of Japan.
Now we just need to get the mana games on Xbox. All right, that is my new quest in life. That is my new goal in life. The Phantom Dust reboot and the mana games on Xbox. If those two things happen, I have succeeded in this industry. I have succeeded in this world, and I can fade into obscurity happily.
Man, that's one of my big piles of shame games. I have not beaten Secret of Mana. I feel bad about it. I've started it like 4 times and I just never beat it.
Did you play it back in the day though, or are these all more okay?
No, these were all recent attempts. Like, gosh, like within like probably the last 10 years, I probably started 3 times through whenever like SNES Classics is out. I'll try Secret of Mana, and I couldn't quite get into it. Or the remake came out, and I tried it for a little bit, and didn't quite get into it. I played all of the when they remade the first one. I played all of that for some reason. What they call it, Sword of Mana now. When it came out
Oh,
again, it was Final
Adventures,
Fantasy. Yeah, it was
Adventures.
Final Fantasy Adventures. They remade it on I got it on, like, my Vita, and I played it all on there. That was fun.
Yeah, this is a hot take, and again, this is coming from somebody who loves the series, but the combat, I think, in Secret of Mana is pretty bad. I think, at least by today's standards. For
Mhm.
the time, it was really innovative. It was really cool. It was real time, but still had this turn-based sort of dynamic with the recharge meter. When you go back and play it now, compared to what the series evolved into, it does not hold up. So if you didn't play it back in the day, it's hard for me to recommend playing Secret of Mana. Um, Unless you really just want to experience this time capsule, because even the remake was bad. The remake was bad.
Well, it didn't look very good. The remake of the 3rd one, what they call it, Trials of Mana, that actually looked pretty cool anyway, so maybe I tried that one. Although, part of me wants to try the Legend of Mana re-release just because I remember being a kid and seeing the magazines and thinking it looked like the prettiest game ever, so it might be fun to actually just play that one now.
The Trials of Mana remake, absolutely worth playing. That is a great jumping off point. There's amazing quality of life features. The combat feels modern. The 3D models that they did are true to the art style, but still kind of reminiscent of the traditional pixel art. Legend of Mana for me it's my favorite JRPG ever. Like I love
Okay.
that game more than any
Well,
JRPG. It's a non-linear story, and I think it is the best non-linear RPG that's ever been made.
yeah, I
That
think that's the one I really wanna try just because of it's like 'cause, I know it is kind of divisive. Some people don't like it, but the people who really like it, really like it.
Yeah, it's what I love about it's side tangent. People are probably like, what the hell is going on here? But side tangent, why I love Legend of Mana and its storytelling is you are just a person in this world. And you are just experiencing this world as if you lived in this world. It's not the stereotypical, you have to save the entire planet, you're the chosen one. Every cliche that we saw in every JRPG up until that point, it came out and you were just a person. And you ran into these individuals organically as you progress through the game, and you would just catch up. You'd run into a character and he'd be on an adventure as you're just randomly out in the world, and you could kind of jump into that. And so that makes it kind of confusing if you are just trying to go through the mainline story. But that being said, if you just want to get lost in the world and meet some wild characters, mm, cannot recommend the game enough.
All right, it's on the to-do list.
I'll make you again. It is divisive. I have people who tried it and said this sucks, and then I just want to strangle them to death. But I understand why it's frustrating because it is nonlinear, and you can't
Right.
necessarily just go in and follow a main storyline. That's not what it's about. But
I think I might like it. I'll give it the old college try someday here after I beat Metroid Dread for the 4th time or something.
still haven't played it. Still haven't played Dread because I've been. I
Um,
was gonna pick it up, but I'm deep into the Castlevania collection right now, so I didn't want to stop playing those to play Dread.
See, my timing worked out well where I beat Harmony of Dissonance right before Dread came out. So I was like, okay, I can now stop here, play Dread, and then get back to Aria of Sorrow. And I'm actually like, that's what I'm doing now is playing Aria of Sorrow, and I'm a bit more than halfway through it. So yeah, I've been watching these little gameplay loops of Harmony and Aria that I've been playing. I'm like, this all looks very familiar.
Yeah. Another quick side tangent. Where do you stand with Harmony of Dissonance?
I like it. I do like it. I think most of its problems are aesthetic, although not the outline. The outline like drives so many people crazy, and I think that is one of the bigger nothing burgers in gaming. I'll be honest. The outline doesn't bother me much. The music, more than anything, the music's just not nearly as good as Castlevania standards
No.
usually are at. But I like the dashing mechanics in this one. I kind of missed it in Aria of Sorrow now, where Aria of Sorrow you basically just have the Symphony of the Night style backdash, and they also kind of nerfed it in a way where you can't just use it to effectively like dash, like it's not your fastest movement option. In Harmony of Dissonance, you have a backdash and a forward dash, and I just mapped those to X and Y, and that felt very good.
Yeah, that is the coolest thing about Harmony of Dissonance is that speed. You can blast
Hmm.
through this game super quickly, which again, I do miss it in Aria of Sorrow. That being said, I just felt like this entry felt slightly off in terms of presentation. Like you said, the music is not as good, the sprite work is not as good. It just felt weird, sandwiched in between Circle of the Moon, which is incredible, and Aria of Sorrow, which some people who are I don't know where I stand. Some people say it's better than Symphony of the Night. Do you think that's true?
I don't think it's better than Symphony of the Night. I think people like it because of the three on Game Boy Advance. It's the one that's by far the most like Symphony of the Night. So if
Yes,
you're like
yeah.
just like if that's really what you love, and I mean I love Symphony of the Night too, but I don't know. I appreciate Circle of the Moon a lot. It's weird to me that Circle of the Moon seems to be like the redheaded stepchild and not Harmony of Dissonance. And I think that's all just because of the time Ego was like, Circle of the Moon's not canon. And then everyone's like, oh, okay. Yeah, actually, it's not that good. I guess.
I
So,
guess.
yeah. So that's always bothered me. I think they're all three very good. I probably do like Arya the most, but it's all very close. The people who are like, this is basically a collection to buy Arya, then you get these two like side games with Circle of the Moon
Jared
Harmony.
Petty.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, that's insane. They're all very good and clearly at least very similar. It's nuts to be like one of them is good and then the other two.
No, I feel the same way. They're all solid. I think I like Harmony of Dissonance the least by a noticeable amount. It's not bad. It's still it's a Metroidvania in the
It is.
golden era of Metroidvanias.
Yeah, my biggest problem with it was that it was very easy, and it was very easy to just manipulate like the shop. Like you could just find a place where a candlestick would give you 400 gold, and just go in and out of that room, and just get so much gold that you could buy a zillion potions, and nothing is ever going to be a threat to you again.
No, and the bosses die super fast.
They do. That's what I say about Circle of the Moon. Maybe my favorite thing about that was that it actually managed to be pretty challenging, which a lot of the Castlevania Metroidvania games struggle with because the RPG mechanics are so elaborate that you can grind and you can just get these items and these spells and stuff that you can basically trivialize the final boss fight. And I'm sure Circle and Moon, if I got the right cards, I could have trivialized it maybe more. But I actually had a good challenging time with that Dracula fight, and I really liked it because of that.
Yeah, Circle of the Moon is the hardest of all three of the Game Boy Advance ones, I'd say for
Yeah,
sure.
absolutely.
Thank you for listening to our Castlevania side tangent here.
Yes.
Buy Castlevania if you have any passing interest. I just want to live in a world where we have consistent Castlevanias again. I miss it a
Yeah,
lot.
and I want those DS games on Switch now, so we gotta make sure that the advanced collection sells well, so we get that DS collection.
Ooh, you getting me excited.
Yeah, let's do it. I still can't believe we don't have that Symphony of the Night Rondo of Blood like duology on Switch. So hopefully, like maybe they wake up and forget, like they remember that they forgot to do that, and we'll get those too. Actually, right now I really want to play Rondo of Blood again. That's what I'm really itching for, which I could on any myriad like other platforms, but I want to do it on my Switch.
I want to do it on my bring it to where
Right.
I am right now.
I want to do it in bed.
All right, our next topic here is going to be a bigger one, and I'm really excited to have you on to talk about it. And that's some conversations that have popped up this week about basically the current state of game reviews. There's been a lot of conversations from people within the industry about, the good, the bad, and the ugly of video game reviews as they stand. So, where are you at right now? You are a games editor for GamesBeat. Where
Yeah.
you guys recently just changed your policy. Can you explain that a
Well,
little bit?
yes, I am the reviews editor, and I've been that for gosh, maybe about a year now. And what the first thing I did was we used to have a 100 point scale, right? So literally 1 to 100, was our rating system, and I changed it to just a 5 point scale immediately. So just up to 5 stars, no half stars, so nothing could be a 4.5. And my hope was to just kind of like to be less about the rating and be more like, look, if you love a game, give it a 5. You think a game is great, give it a 4. If you think a game's good, give it a 3, and so on and so forth. That made sense to me. Now, the one problem there is that it can awkwardly translate to Metacritic sometimes, right? Where
Yes.
Metacritic's like, like, oh, well, 3 out of 5, that's a 60%. And when you got a 60% in, third grade, that was bad, right? So that can be a little bit awkward. But this like the score thing, that's one thing. The part of the conversation I find interesting is more just the time commitment, because that's what we struggle with really. It's just how difficult it is to review games now, because games are so long anymore. They're so big, and we're our staff. We have 4 people on staff. We don't have anybody who is just reviewing games as their primary thing. Even me, as the games reviews editor, that's not really most of my job. Most of my job is editing stories and writing stories, doing podcasts, stuff like that. I organize the reviews and everything. But like, we got Far Cry 6 code in, and we maybe got a week to play it, and that's pretty typical. Because these days people are working on these games till the last moment, so they're not going to hand over code to PR until they know it's ready, because they don't want to give people buggy versions of it. I know that happened with Kina. They straight up just said, like, look, these codes are coming in late. Like, we misunderstood, not misunderstood, but we weren't prepared for how long the certification process is. So we're trying to get it hard, but there's only going to be like a few days to review it. And so with that, and with Far Cry, I, instead of trying to be like, okay, well, now you're going to stay up all night and you're going to play these games so that we get a review, right, an embargo, we're more just like, do your best, play it as much as you can or want to, but we understand that no one's playing games while they're on the clock, and I don't want people to be spending too much like off the clock time, quote unquote, working. So that's another reason why I don't we you don't really see us review a lot of games that are awful, because we don't really want to spend our off the clock time reviewing terrible games, unless they're almost something like Ball and Wonderworld. I think I just pressured Jeff into as a joke, so he was okay with that. But like, if you see why game scores can kind of skew high sometimes, I think it's because people were going to review games on a lot of these sites, and you look like, 80 people reviewed Metroid Dread. A lot of people are going to review a game because they want to review a game. Maybe at IGN and GameSpot and the absolute biggest places, they're going to review everything because they have dedicated reviewers. But for again, for us, I tell everybody, do what you can. If you get just something up as impressions, that's fine. If it's a review in progress, that's okay. Or if you just want to wait a few days to publish a review after you beat a game, that's okay too. Because reviews, at least for us, and again, I think it might be different for the biggest sites, it's not a giant force for driving traffic, anyways. Again, there's 80 people doing reviews for these games now. People aren't cycling through and reading all of these. A lot of the times, if you do get read, it's because you happen to be the lowest score or the highest score. People are mad at you or something like that, anyways. And then that's people think like, well, now you're getting all these clicks, you're making money. No, you're getting angry fanboys, and you're getting weird messages in your Twitter, and it's just stressful and everything. So basically, I say sometimes reviewing games isn't very fun.
Yeah, it's a really fascinating conversation that's popped up because I've done several reviews. Again, Windows Central similar. We're a smaller team. We don't have anyone dedicated to reviews. We all kind of talk about in our meetings who's going to take what review. Like, what games are you interested in that are coming out in the future, and we'll basically dictate who's going to review what and try to spread it out so nobody's doing a bunch of reviews. Tales of Arise recently, I did the review for that, and I had essentially 5 days to play this entire JRPG and then write a review for the embargo. And again, we're similar. Like, our editors understand the process and say, if you need to do a review in progress, you can't finish it, let us know. Do that. That is cool. Tales of Arise is over 50 hours. It's probably close to a 60-hour game. So I basically had to crunch, you could say. And we have a lot of conversations about crunch for development. I had to spend a lot of time playing this game to get the review done. And I gave it a 4.5. So I loved the game. I thought it was incredible. But some inside baseball here for everyone. At a certain point, I just wanted it to be done. I just wanted the
Hmm.
game to end, because this is not really a spoiler, but kind of there's a false ending, in the game. Like there's a build up to this big climax, and then
A
there's
JRPG would never do that.
and then there's a like anime cutscene that plays like, oh, the game's over, and then the game wasn't over, and I was like, oh, come on, like
Right? Because yeah, I did it. I'm happy. I can now go back to my normal life.
no, I and so again, like, but when you're reviewing a game, you can't hold that against the game because that's not how the average person
Sure.
is going to play it. So you have to kind of disconnect yourself in some ways from how somebody else would play it because the average person probably isn't putting in 50 hours in 5 days.
I give you a lot of credit for even trying to, because when I got that code, even though I was excited for that game, and I saw how much time, I was like, I'm not even going to try. I'm going to just let that one be. I'll play this for like before Game of the Year time, and that's my plan still, so I can like consider it then, and I will write about it eventually. I learned my lesson with JRPGs very early. Uh, my first weekend reviewing games, I got some freelance work from EGM back in the day. It was to do the remake of Star Ocean 2 that came out for the PSP, and this very weird PlayStation 2 RPG called Artanelico 2 that was just filled with sexual innuendo about sliding crystals into these girls' crystal slots, and it was kind of weird and comfortable. But yeah, I was like, "Oh, can you review these two JRPGs in a week?" It was my first time. I just wanted to please, and I just really wanted to have a gig. I was like, "Okay." So I just spent a week doing nothing but playing these JRPGs, and it was stressful, and it literally took up like all the time I could possibly have, like sleeping as little as possible, just sitting in front of a TV doing nothing but inserting crystals into girls' crystal slots, and it was, so I don't think I've recovered still. So I'm always very wary about reviewing a JRPG. It's just a tough prospect, and it's a stressful prospect because they're long. How long though? Because it could be anywhere from 30 hours to 100 hours sometimes, and you can't account for that time.
Oh yeah, imagine being the person who signed up to do Persona 5 and then realizes the main campaign's
Oh,
100 hours. And you're like, wow, okay.
yeah, I think that's actually the last major one I did do was Persona 5 because that one was so big and I liked Persona so much. Like, okay, I'll do this, and it's still like, man, yeah, it's like, all right, I'm playing a lot of Persona 5, I guess.
Yeah, so it is an interesting kind of dynamic that happens because obviously with embargoes and the way everything's scheduled, it's all designed to be part of the marketing push for it. There's a specific marketing reason why we have review embargoes and why they
Hmm.
want these beats at a specific time. So that is just part of the equation. Um, and I understand that with game development as it stands, a lot of this stuff comes down to the wire. Like you've talked about with Kenna, like the certification process takes a while. Sometimes there's last minute bugs. Like there's a lot that goes into getting a game across the finish line and on these platforms. So in a lot of cases, you can't necessarily get a review code super far in advance.
Hmm.
How can the process be improved? Is there a way to improve it, or is this just the necessary evil that we all endure?
Yeah, I'll be honest. I don't really think it can be improved too much. I mean, ideally, it's like, well, they get the codes to us earlier, but again, it's not like PR's doing this to be mean to us. It's not like the developers are doing this to be mean to us. They're trying to make a game here, and there's a lot that goes into that last month of development. That's very stressful. It's very hard to turn the game over to people at all. Let alone when you technically still have time. You technically could still improve things. It's not like the cartridge days. It's not like, gosh, back in the magazine days where you saw a review for a game in a magazine like 3 months before it came out. Well, a
Oh
lot of times because
yeah.
that game was done in Japan like 2 years ago and it's only now getting localized, right? So I think the healthiest thing we can do, especially for smaller sites like us, is just realize that we don't have to hit that embargo. It's fine, especially when it's an embargo like 2 weeks before a game comes out. Anyways, it's fine if we're coming out a few days after that, a week after that. Sometimes it's better because again, your reviews coming at the same time as 80 other sites, including the IGNs and the GameSpots. Who's going to read your review? Well, if your review comes out like a week later, and all of a sudden it's like a new review, maybe you'll get more eyes on it. A lot of times, too. Let's be honest. Like a lot of times, doing the reviews is about those publisher relationships, right? It's kind of this thing where it's like, well, we're talking to you guys, we're giving you guys previews and stuff because we know that hopefully you'll review our games and maybe it'll be helpful to us someday. And to us, it is still helpful. It can still be an important milestone. And I think a lot of us do feel like reviews are more important than they are sometimes, right? Like that's like, oh, I'm reviewing Halo. That's a really big deal. And then you do it, and it's like the 20th most read story of your day.
You're just like,
So it does,
oh,
it's not right. It's not really, but like it feels like a big deal. I'm reviewing Halo.
Yes, I'm reviewing Halo Infinite. That is cool. People are gonna be so excited. And then there's 500 reviews that drop on the same day for
Hmm.
Halo Infinite. So yeah, it's interesting. Big question here, broad question for you, and I'll pose this to the people listening as well. Are game reviews inherently valuable? And are some game reviews more valuable than others?
There is inherent value to them. Again, there's a lot of value to the publishers if they're positive, right?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, and they are valuable to consumers to a degree. Are they valuable to me as a website? A little bit, but not nearly as much as some people make them out to be. And that's my big thing about it is I don't stress out about it. There's not a single review I can think of where I would be upset that we didn't make the embargo, right? Like I would freak out. Like again, let's say we didn't get a Halo review up in time for the embargo. That seems like a bad thing. That seems like, oh my gosh, we messed up. And I'm like, well, what are the actual ramifications of that? We missed out on, a little bit of traffic, maybe, probably not very much. Turns out, not really anything. Maybe the worst case scenario is like Microsoft's like, well, these guys aren't even reviewing the game, so why do we have to work with them? But that's probably not going to happen either. So there's some value there, but maybe not as much as people think.
You touched on this a little bit, but I want to have a bigger conversation about Metacritic and how Metacritic is used from a consumer perspective and an industry enthusiast perspective, because there's a lot of work that goes into game development. There's a lot of work
Hmm.
that goes into playing a game. There's a lot of work that goes into writing a review, and then Metacritic puts a single number on that entire process. And if you're, when you go on Amazon reviews, you typically go through and you look at the reviews for a product you're going to purchase. This has 4.5 stars. 10,000 people reviewed it. Cool. It's probably fine. And I understand, fundamentally that you could use Metacritic as that if you're a parent or somebody looking to buy somebody an Xbox game as a gift and you're like, I'm not really invested in the industry, I don't really know, but this has gotten good reviews, so I'll buy this and that should be a safe bet. But as we've seen, people who are invested in the space, Metacritic can be used as a quick way to say this game is better than this game. How do you feel
Hmm.
about that?
I don't really blame Metacritic. I think there is value in having some kind of aggregate, and if Metacritic didn't, people would just do it on themselves on something like Reddit. Again, it can be awkward sometimes how it translates things, and I get, of course, they're going to translate a 3 out of 5 into a 60. I almost wish I could just tell them, like, think of it more as a 70. I don't know. Can you do that, or are you get? No, they're probably not going to put that much work into it because again, they have like 80 reviews for each game. The thing that bothers me the most is tying developer bonuses to that stuff, right?
Yeah.
If your game gets above an 85, like okay, so what? If one guy who's reviewing your game just happens to not like your game because of whatever reasons, there's gonna be a million legitimate reasons, and they give it a low score, and suddenly that tanks the Metacritic average on it. Now everybody else is like missing out on actual money. That's bizarre. That's weird. I think maybe there's been less of that, but I don't know. I worry about how much of that is still happening because it seems like a bad evil practice.
I agree. And this is we're going to transition to something that's going to be probably controversial for some. I think with any form of art, whether it be music, movies, video games, how is it even possible to have a quote unquote objective review? In my eyes, I don't think there is
No,
anything as a genuinely objective review for something like video games.
no, absolutely
This
not,
isn't a
and that's
toaster oven. This isn't a microwave. There is so much more nuance. Your tastes dictate how you like it. So, yeah, are you on the same page? Like, can you do an
oh god, yeah.
objective video game review?
No, and there's absolutely no value in it anyways, right? I mean, that's why there are 80 reviews, right? It's because there are so many perspectives. And how it's really supposed to work is you find a perspective that you like and you find that writer and you're like, okay, well, now I know that this guy kind of jives with me, so I can, care about his reviews more in the future. And you can find a few writers that you really like and you can follow their reviews. Now, the problem with video games is that that works better with a movie critic because one movie critic is probably going to see every major movie that year, so you can do that. With video games, it just doesn't work because again, video games can take 100 hours to beat. So, I'm not necessarily playing every video game this year, let alone writing a review for every video game. And I think that is kind of the inherent problem of it. There is just a practicality issue. But yeah, that is my least favorite comment I ever get. Like, this isn't an objective review. You talked about your feelings in it. It's like, bitch, you know what criticism is?
Let me give you an
It,
objective review here. Halo.
yeah.
Halo Infinite is a multiplayer first person shooter. Halo Infinite has a campaign that is 12 hours long. Halo Infinite has multiplayer that is up to 24 players. Halo Infinite has RPG mechanics. Halo
Mhm.
Infinite Halo Infinite has 15 multiplayer maps, and Halo Infinite has a battle pass.
And
That's
that's
what
like
an
the stuff.
objective review would sound like.
And that's something, gosh, when I first started reviewing, I used to do it, and it's something I have to tell sometimes, younger people I work with now, like, don't give me product descriptions. Don't have a paragraph that explains the controls for the love of God. I don't care. That is so interesting. That is computer data. That is like something a robot would do. We can find that information anywhere. Tell me how the game makes you feel.
Tell me how it makes you feel. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
maybe it's corny, but that's the reason I love video games is because they offer this outlet in this medium that can make you feel a way that a movie and a TV show or music even can't. It's kind of the
Mhm.
best of all of those elements with this interactive experience that immerses you in the art in a way that we don't have another outlet for. So there's value to that, and it's hard to objectively say that this is going to translate for every single person who plays it.
Yeah, I'll kind of finish my thoughts with this on this. It is a problem, and I don't. You kind of asked it before, like, what's the solution? I really don't think there is a solution, or at least a permanent fix here. This is going to be something we are going to be struggling with and kind of grappling with for a long time. And I think it's just part of the issue is that games criticism is still heavily based in other media and how people were criticizing movies and other things like that. And it still just never really works that well for video games because again, it's so difficult. Like I thought the one of the best systems that we had for this was what EGM used to do back when they had like 4 or 3 people review a single game, and then they would each give it a score, and you can kind of see multiple opinions on it. And they each wrote like a paragraph or two, so that they could only say how the game made them feel. That's the other thing. Like when I see 3,000 word reviews, I kind of roll my eyes and I try to tell people on our site, like, don't write reviews that long, man. Just because you're talking too much. Just tell me how the game made you feel. The shorter, the better, usually. But again, that EGM thing that worked back in the 16-bit era day, man, where you could beat a game in 5 hours, and you were in
Yes.
the office, and they were probably actually playing games on company time a lot because they were making one magazine a month.
Yeah, yeah. If my review exceeds 1,500 words, like that's kind of the upper echelon of the amount of words I'm gonna put into a review. If I can't articulate how I feel, whether or not this game is good in 1,500 words, then I gotta reevaluate some stuff. I
Right.
personally, I don't ever want to read a 3,000 word review for
No,
anything.
and I hate when I have to edit them. And it's like some people need to think they need to talk about everything. I'm like, no, just talk about the things that were exceptional or that were notably bad. Like if a game has a multiplayer mode that you don't care about because you think it's just fine or whatever, you need to talk about. No, you need to tell me it's there. I don't care. Again, I don't need a product description. Just tell me about that used to be our format. Was we basically had the what you like, what you won't like, and was like highs and lows. And I made it a little bit more freeform than that when I became reviews editor. But that philosophy is still there. Like, just tell me like what's good, what's bad, but do it in a pro style. I don't literally want bullet lists.
Yeah. All right, I'm gonna get to a couple super chats here. Nick W says, with their success in Japan, let's hope that Xbox gets more exclusive Japanese games.
Let's get Lost Odyssey 2. Let's go.
Lost Odyssey 2, baby.
Blue Dragon 2. Okay, no one wants Blue Dragon 2, but maybe that'd be interesting. I don't know.
I kind of want to go back and replay Blue Dragon 2 or Blue Dragon because I have nostalgia for it, but I feel like it wasn't a great game.
Yeah, I didn't. I don't think I even really played it back then. But I just remember like everyone liked Lost Odyssey, and nobody really liked Blue Dragon that much. Even though it like kind of seemed like the more interesting one at the time. Like Lost Odyssey just basically seemed like very Final Fantasy X esque, whereas Blue Dragon seemed like, oh wow, this is like kind of Dragon Questy, but in this interesting way. I don't know. This seems a little different. But no, Lost Odyssey is the one everybody likes.
It's probably a bad sign that I played it at launch and don't remember it at all. Like, not even a little bit.
It's a
Super
cool name too, Blue Dragon.
Blue
Sorry.
Dragon has some mystery to Yu-Gi-Oh
Yeah,
vibes to it.
yeah, it's fun. Yeah. Now,
Uh,
now you've talked me out of it. Never mind.
no, no. Eternal Umber says, "Yo, what's up, Miles, Mike, and chat? Just wanted to show love to everyone. Appreciate you, dude." Brian Hopkins says, "Great start to the weekend. Listening to Mike Minotti and my boy, Mr. Future Class, 2021, Miles Dompier."
It's their present class. We're
Hard.
living in the here and now.
Harjeet Chani says the gaming world seems to be dominated by Western and Japanese devs. What other regions would you like to see games from? Seems like a lot of the world's history and culture is missing from gaming. Do you think that's
Yeah.
necessarily true? Think we're
I
not
mean, what
getting expressions from everywhere?
It's getting better. A lot of it's still indie developers, right? And we're seeing some larger studios, like that studio from India, was it right? That's working on the Prince of Persia remake. So we're getting some of that. But there's a lot of Latin America indie developers now that are working on stuff. And there probably are bigger ones that I can't remember. The team that made the Metro game we're all raving about right now was from Spain. So that's pretty interesting. So Europe's in full string. I know. I think Europe's pretty well covered these days. Although there's a lot of aspects to Europe, but I think this is an issue. I think he's right, but I think it's kind of resolving itself just as we become a bit more worldly, and the reach of video games is reaching so many other territories.
Yeah, I agree with the overall sentiment. I would love to see more diverse stories in gaming because, again, from a Western perspective, we pretty much know what to expect. But when we start looking at places like India, like Spain, there are dynamics and culture and storytelling that we haven't really seen on a huge scale. There's been a ton of amazing indies that have kind of filled that void for a lot of people, but it would be really cool to see larger scale, big budget games that highlight those differences.
Absolutely.
Super chat from PVT X Pile. Miles, Chaturdays is one of my favorite times of the week, and thanks for getting Mike as a guest. I love this. Woof woof. Also, Arby's ASMR when?
Oh God, nobody wants to hear that. That is not relaxing. You're gonna panic attack if you hear me just absolutely destroying a beef and cheddar. That is not for the faint of heart.
uh, oh, wait. Another one from PVT Pio says, Miles, grab some water for a sec so Mike can flute. All
Oh,
right.
you want to hear a flute? Want to
Yeah,
hear some flute?
let's get a little, just a quick flute solo here.
Just a little bit, okay. Warming up. There you go. There's a little Hobbit stuff for you.
Absolutely beautiful. If you haven't tuned into GamesBeat Decides, there's plenty of incredible mic flute intermissions.
This is how I always feel silences or breaks if my co-host's kids need something from him and I'm just sitting in front of the monitor by myself. I'm like, all right, I'll just play this stupid thing for a second.
One more super chat from Space Dovahkiin says, "Oh, people love to wait and see Jeff reviews. Are Jeff reviews
Uh,
controversial?"
well, sometimes the big one he gave Returnal a 3 out of 5, which again means that he liked it. He thought it was good, just that it had some problems. Some noticeable problems, and some people freaked out. There was this weird thing going around for a while that Jeff was like an Xbox fanboy and hated Sony just because he wrote something mildly critical of Jim Ryan, and then he reviewed Returnal and gave it a 3 out of 5. So Reset Era freaked out, and I was like, well, obviously Jeff is just a fanboy and just absolutely hates Sony. To the point where, like, when people found out he was reviewing Ratchet and Clank, they were freaking out and they were like emailing me, like, "Don't let him do it. He's gonna ruin it." It's like, then he just gave it a 5 out of 5 because he's a normal human being, and the internet sucks. It is weird.
Yeah, it's funny. It's the whole, is someone a fanboy? Is somebody not? Gave Returnal a 6, but then gave Ratchet and Clank a 5. So then he goes from being a anti PlayStation to now he's anti Xbox.
Oh yeah, we get it from all sides. Don't worry.
All right, Mike. I want to transition into some Nintendo-ish news and how it
Okay.
relates to the broader industry as a whole and this obsession with online subscription service. We've seen it in movies and television. Everyone wants the go-to service that you sign up for that gives you the best value that you have to have. Nintendo, per standard, is late to the game on online, and they were the last to put out their kind of answer to Xbox Live Gold and PlayStation Plus with Nintendo Online. Recently, in an Animal Crossing Direct, they have confirmed what the price upgrade will be if you want the Nintendo Online expansion pack. And I don't know if it was just me, but I was caught off guard by how drastic of a price increase we saw. It went from $20 a year to $50 a year for the Nintendo with the Nintendo Online expansion pack. What is Nintendo thinking?
I have no idea. We knew it was going to be bad news because they didn't tell us right away when they said there was going to be a new tier and that it was going to cost more, but they didn't tell us how much more it was going to cost. But I mean, so the original package there, right? Like $20, that might seem like a great deal compared to $60 for Xbox Live Gold. But you're getting a much worse online service. You have to use a phone app to do voice chat, even for whatever reason. And then basically, they're like,
Okay.
excuse me, their big selling point is that you get any NES and Super Nintendo games that they release very slowly, and that's nice. But I'm paying $20 a year for that. It seems a little ridiculous. So it almost just feels like really they could have just added the stuff to that just to try to make the value of that seem better. But instead, they're like, oh, now you're getting Nintendo 64 games, Genesis games, and this Animal Crossing expansion that maybe you want or don't want. And for that, you're gonna pay more than twice as much as it usually costs. That is really bold, I guess I would say. That surprised me. I thought it was going to be $10 more expensive, maybe $20 more expensive because it's Nintendo, but $30 more expensive than a online subscription service that costs $20. That's something.
I was having an argument with my friend when they first announced it, and he was saying they're going to double the price. It's going to be double the price. I'm like, no way. They're not going to double the price for Nintendo 64 games. It's going to be like $30. They're going to jump it up $10, $30 a year. They more than doubled it. They
Oh
more
yeah.
than doubled it. And cool, you get N64 games. And we all know Nintendo would have bundled Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask together for $60 and did nothing to it at all, and people would have bought it. People would have bought
hmm
it with a smile on their face, excited. So if we look at it from that perspective, we can say, yeah, it's a good value. You do get a lot of cool Nintendo 64 games. You get a bunch of Genesis games. My problem with this is if we look at Nintendo Online compared to PlayStation Plus, we look at it compared to Xbox Live. Xbox Live has been around way longer, and Nintendo Switch to me isn't on the level that Xbox 360 had for
No.
for online gaming. You are like
Or
two generations behind right now.
Yeah, Xbox 360 lets you use voice chat right on your console. So yeah, it was way ahead of Switch still.
What is the deal there? Why are they tying voice chat to an app? Is it a hardware thing? Is it an infrastructure thing? Why doesn't the Switch have party chat?
Yeah, I don't know. It must be hardware related or battery related or something like that. Because people tried asking, Reggie and people this back when they asked it the first time, and they just dodged the question. We don't really know. The worst case scenario is that somebody thought it was better and cooler that way. Like, wow, there's a sweet phone app people use. They will like this. Kids like phones, right? No, people want to just use an app on the system they're already on. I have no idea.
It's really frustrating to see. And the big question I want to have here is we're going to look at the pros and cons of Xbox Live, Nintendo Online, and PlayStation. Because as far behind as Nintendo Online is, they do one thing that I really, really wish Xbox in particular would do, and that's having this huge archive of these retro games. And they have online. They have in a totally un-Nintendo move. You can play all these amazing retro games with online multiplayer. And when the
Right.
Nintendo 64 comes out, you can play these games with online multiplayer. And not only that, you can play single player games and you can have four people in a lobby playing this game together and swapping off. And to me, that is an incredibly innovative online gaming offering that PlayStation and Xbox don't have.
Yeah, Nintendo can always play on the strength of its retro library, and I definitely wish Microsoft would do it more. I'm shocked Sony doesn't do it more because they have a much bigger retro library to pull from than even Microsoft has. So I would reprimand Microsoft a little bit for not going harder on this, but Sony is the one that really stands out in terms of just like get some PlayStation One games. Like there were so many PlayStation One games you can download on the Vita, and it was great. But it's you're still paying like $10 each for these things. Like no, just like wow me with a giant library of these things, so I can play Jumping Flash 2 like immediately on my PlayStation 5, and then I could quickly switch over to Dino Crisis, or I can switch over to Metal Gear Solid 1 or Ridge Racer 4. Like that would make me very happy.
Yeah, I mean, as we're seeing, obviously, retro gaming is a niche market for some, but there is still a ton of value, and obviously, Nintendo sees the value in that, and arguably, they have, or not arguably, objectively, they have the longest running legacy of those retro titles. And
Hmm.
Nintendo, from just a general world perspective, is the biggest name in gaming, so it's easier for them to sell you on that nostalgia. Whereas Xbox, again, like they haven't been they're not that far behind PlayStation, but there's not that same association with nostalgia. But
Right. Well, the first console was, it was successful, right? But for a lot of people, it was, what Halo. Like, what other original Xbox games would you throw on that? You could do Fable One. Like, there's some people like me that hold a torch for Crimson Skies and stuff like that. But compared to the PlayStation 2 and just the ridiculous library that had, even GameCube, which wasn't as successful as PlayStation 2, but has a pretty like long list of games that are still beloved to this day, like Wind Waker, like Smash Brothers Melee, right? So, but still, like you know, do it, please.
yeah, because you look at Xbox in particular, and they have this huge emphasis on backwards compatibility, and they've
Right,
done a really good job enhancing titles, keeping these old titles playable and relevant. We have amazing games like Fusion Frenzy, Hunter the Reckoning that you can play on your Xbox. But I just want there to be a way to play that. If I could play Hunter the Reckoning or Fusion Frenzy with online multiplayer on my Xbox, that would be the dream. That would be
right.
the dream. So for me, that is one area that Nintendo is actually innovating the space, is the way that they handle these retro games by adding online support.
Right, yeah, so and that is something. Then my only complaint is how slow they are about adding games to the service. I still can't believe we don't have Mario RPG and Earthbound on the Super Nintendo offerings, and and then it's like more consoles, right? I still can't believe we haven't had any kind of a GameCube like virtual console, whatever. I still think of GameCube now as like that's just too new, I guess. But at this point, there's not much of a difference between a GameCube or a Nintendo 64. And the same token, there's not that much of a difference between Xbox 360 and an Xbox. They could get Xbox 360 games going too. Like Rare Replay was awesome. And it'd be cool if they even just did more collections like that. It was cool just to have all these old games. Even that was a great way for them to get a legacy, even if it wasn't necessarily theirs, but that adds kind of history to Xbox, right? I almost wish they could do more things like that. Is there even a marathon collection, right? Like those Halo precursors. Do they have all of those on the consoles? That would be fun.
Yeah, because there's the Master Chief Collection, which did a really good job of bundling all the mainline Halos, but there is a lot of spin-offs that aren't bundled together in any way.
Hmm. Yeah, exactly. So, but I mean, gosh, even aside from that, though, yeah, I think Xbox Live Gold pretty clearly wipes the floor with these things. I mean, you still get actual like not that they're actual games, but like way more newer games that you can download for free once a month, right? And that inherently has a lot more value. As much as I love old games, that has more value than being able to have Super Metroid on my 20th machine.
Yes, absolutely. Xbox Live Gold and PlayStation Plus are kind of the front runners right now, and there's a lot of debates as to which of those services, if we're not looking at Xbox Game Pass,
Sure.
Xbox Live Gold versus PlayStation Plus. PlayStation Plus does a better job with new games, with
Mhm.
bigger, more noteworthy titles. There was a running period of time where Xbox Gold wasn't really competing. They were just throwing in a lot of obscure titles that didn't have a lot of appeal and draw. And then there was the controversy earlier this year where they were saying, "Oh, we're pretty much going to double the price of Xbox Gold." And this is at the peak of everyone complaining about Xbox Live Gold being not a great value in terms of what games you get with it. They were saying, "We're going to double the price." We then saw Xbox backpedal in a huge way and just say, "Okay, no, we're not. We're not doing that."
Right.
Sorry, we even thought of doing it. We're not doing this. So there's been conversations asking, will Nintendo take the same approach? Will Nintendo listen to the cries online and adjust their pricing model for this?
Absolutely not. No, no. Nintendo doesn't. I mean, I don't wanna say they don't care. Maybe they care a little bit, but no, they're gonna go full steam ahead, and they I think they know they can get away with it, and they probably will. I still think it probably would have done just as well for them at $40. There probably would have been enough more, like there would have been more people getting it that it would have probably maybe even been more profitable. But they will somehow still be fine at $50 and they'll be happy. They absolutely aren't going to backtrack. When have they ever backtracked on anything? I'm trying to even think of an example and nothing's really coming to mind, right? Like, we complained about uh Mario 64 wasn't in widescreen in the collection, right? It's not like they went in and patched in widescreen support, or they patched in support to make Mario Sunshine 60 frames per second when we got the 3D All Stars thing, right? Like, no, we get what Nintendo gets us.
That I held strong. I love Super Mario 64. I love Super Mario Sunshine. But when I found out that those games were just 30 FPS and they were charging me $60 for a limited time to buy them, I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it, Mike. But it doesn't matter because that was still the number one selling game on Amazon. That
Oh
game was
yeah.
still made a buttload of money. I had people hitting me up excited that there was a limited window to buy this game, excited
Hmm.
that they could play these games on Switch. So I agree. I don't think Nintendo's going to backpedal under any circumstances. And how I know this is I have friends messaging me about this Nintendo 64 online saying, yo, when are we playing Mario Kart?
Hmm.
They're ready. They're ready to shell out that $50 a year, no questions asked. So people are going to pay it. People are going to buy it. And again, as much as we're invested in the kind of vocal Twitter gaming space, that's not the majority of people who are going to sign up for this service.
I mean, there is value in winning that Twitter gaming space kind of war there. We see Microsoft care about that. We saw Sony care about that a bit when they kind of backtracked on like was shutting down the Vita store or whatever it was, something similar, right? Nintendo does not care about that at all.
Yeah, it's fascinating to because it was Xbox was on this island where they were invested and they were listening to feedback, and then we had PlayStation and Nintendo who were just doing whatever they wanted. But
Mhm.
even PlayStation, we've seen more lenient. The stuff you mentioned, the upgrade pricing structure, the inconsistencies
That's
there,
right. That was the last big one. That's right. Yeah, with was what it was going to be with
Horizon.
Horizon too.
Hmm.
Yes, yes, absolutely right. Yeah, like they are like they get worried. They sweat a bit when they're trending negatively on Twitter. Right? Nintendo doesn't care. It sometimes even wonder if they notice. They must notice, but it sometimes seems like they don't even know. Right? Like so many of these decisions are being made in some tower in Japan, and you can imagine there's like somebody from Nintendo of America trying to explain to them what's going on, and they are just like, well, that sounds like something that's happening pretty far away that we don't care about. Okay, well, all right. I guess we'll be okay like usual. We'll see.
It's hard for me to imagine a company as big and successful as Nintendo being that oblivious, but I also kind of have the same vibe. Like I feel sometimes they don't understand fully how they're perceived online.
I mean, this is the company that still uses friend codes, so there's got to be some kind of oblivious there, like somehow. I don't know how it could possibly be, but they are insular. They just sometimes aren't looking out.
This is the company who will not give you cloud saves for Pokemon, a game that you will spend hundreds of hours playing because they are worried that people will cheat with cloud saves.
And people are gonna cheat anyways on Pokemon, but yeah, it's the integrity of Pokemon. Gosh, we can't have anything bad happen to that.
Cloud saves are not how you cheat with the game. Like it's
No, but this
fundamentally like
this sounds scary to them, like,
what
"Whoa,
people at Nintendo. What is the cloud? I don't want anything to do with it. It sounds scary. I
is it like a
cloud.
rain cloud? Is it like an angry cloud? Like, is it our friend? I don't like this."
So it's upsetting. Obviously, this is an Xbox centric show. I prefer Xbox. I talk about that all the time. I still love Nintendo. I still want them to have an online offering that I can be excited about and I can tell my friends to sign up for. The only reason I still maintain my Nintendo Switch online subscription is to play Smash Bros online, and that sucks. Like I love
Mhm,
Smash Brothers so much that I'm basically paying a Super Smash Bros Ultimate online subscription at this point.
right. I mean, I do. I buy the $20 tier just because I do like retro games a lot, and I do like having access to a lot of those. I think it could be better, but I'm saying now that like I don't know if I'm gonna get this $50 thing. Like it doesn't seem like a great value, and there's a good chance I'm going to anyways because I'm awful and I'm a bad person, and you shouldn't do the things that I do. But I don't like it, but I'm definitely part of the problem there. That's for sure.
Same, hard same. I am complaining about it. I've publicly complained about it. Will I have the willpower to not do it? That's the big
Yeah.
question. Will I pull a Super Mario 3D All Stars and say, "No, Miles, don't." Take a moral stand. Tell Nintendo, "No, I'm not okay with this. You need to give me more. You need to give me party chat." If you I would
Yeah,
pay
right.
an upgraded price for party chat alone. For the love
Yeah,
of
like for
God.
crying out loud, yeah, at least please put that app functionality just on the Switch, if nothing else. Yeah, I don't know. You know what it might be is just the Switch is bad at running two applications at the same time. I think I thought about that. That's probably the actual problem there. Like it can't run things in the background like an Xbox One or even a PlayStation 4 can, or even a Xbox 360 can. Apparently, I don't know. Bizarre.
You're
Seems really
probably
weird to me.
sadly 100% right. And
Mhm.
there's probably sadly a world where we never get party chat with the current
Uh,
Switch.
No, let's keep those Switch 2 dreams alive. I'll tell you what, if it was just Genesis games, it'd be easier to pass. Not because I don't like Genesis games, but they already made like an amazing Genesis collection on the Switch that basically has everything you can want. Like two of the big ones that are missing are Castlevania Bloodlines and Contra Hardcores, and those are available also on the Switch in separate collections anyway. So yeah, the Genesis thing has always seemed a little weird to me just because so many of those games are already spoken for on that platform. Like at least give me Game Boy Now, Game Boy Color Now, or Game Boy Advance, or do something really exciting like GameCube, like Sega Saturn, even Sega Master System, something just a little surprising. Hopefully we get more systems soon. But yeah, right now it's just Nintendo 64 and Genesis. That seems a little wimpy.
Not to disparage Genesis, but I am so tired of Genesis. I'm
I know what
so
you. I love it. I love it. But man, I've played a lot of Genesis games. I have a lot of ways of doing it. I got my Genesis Mini. There's a million compilations that come out all the time. Right, like yeah, I love the Genesis, but I'm not exactly dying to have access for those games. Sega Master System, it's pretty hard to get access to those games, so that would be interesting. Especially in the U.S. where that platform wasn't all that popular. Even the Turbo Graphics 16. I know we got the Mini not too long ago, but for a lot of people, those games are very accessible. So throw more of those on the Switch. We had TurboGrafx games on the Wii Virtual Console. I remember back in the day, so there's precedent there at least. But yeah, or do something really cool like Dreamcast games. Like that would be exciting. You tell me I can play Skies of Arcadia and Sonic Adventure 2 and Shenmue. That'll be interesting. That'll be like, whoa, I didn't see that coming. That's cool. But Genesis,
whoa.
like of course,
$100 a year. $100 a year
right.
if you want any
Yeah,
3D
yeah, of
games.
course, yeah, then they're gonna charge more for it, right? But again, it's like it's the most yeah, you tell people to guess, all right, it's gonna be one non-Nintendo console on there. Well, it's Genesis. And yeah, it's Genesis. And also you're not gonna get like the Disney games, which are some of the best anyways because of licensing. So great.
So great. So they've called this the Nintendo Online Expansion Pack, obviously referencing the Nintendo 64 expansion pack, a play on
Right.
that. If they do add other consoles, do you think they are going to continue to charge supplemental price increases?
Man, like I don't even they can't be how bold can they really get here? Because this is a lot. Part of me is hoping because maybe it is so much because they want to add more to it, right? But
I
again,
please.
nothing's off the table. Nothing's off the table. I certainly never thought it was going to be more than twice as much as the original tier, so I wouldn't put it past them.
Is this going to be more like Xbox games with gold as we saw with the Animal Crossing DLC where you think we'll maybe get either DLC or maybe exclusive games here and there
I mean,
offered through this?
they should. I mean, they if they're already doing this DLC thing, like this should get you access to like basically all of the DLC for the major games. This should get you access to the fighter passes for Smash Brothers and the courses for Mario Kart and anything that's going to come out for Splatoon 3 in the future, stuff like that. Of course, it won't, but it makes me think of like say Elder Scrolls Online, right? Where you can pay, it's free to play, but you have to pay. There's a subscription service that gives you access to the expansions, basically. That almost feels like what I'm paying for here, except I'm not actually getting that stuff.
They need to commit to X number of games per month for me to really
Yes.
be celebrating this, because they've been so inconsistent with with SNES and NES games. We go months without anything, and then we get an obscure batch of 3 games that I've never even heard
No.
of. And
Well, you're
that's,
not a Claymates fan?
I mean, Claymates, not a bad game, not a bad game. What was the other one that came out in that same bundle that
I
was
feel like there's been 20 obscure caveman-based side scrollers that aren't Joe and Mac, and I was like, "Oh, okay, there's more of these."
Wait, while I have you, did you see the news about the Joe and Mac remake?
Oh, I saw it. Oh, I saw it. I loved me some Joe and Mac as a kid, so I'm excited about that.
I know you're one of the only people out there that I see on Twitter acknowledging Joe and Mac and how
Oh,
stellar it is as a Super Nintendo title. So
yes.
I am cautiously optimistic. I saw the art style and I don't know that I love it, but we'll see.
See, I was into it. It kinda reminded me of that remake of Wonder Boy and the Dragon's Trap, so we'll
Yeah.
see.
And
Uh,
that was good. That
that
was
was
a
great.
good game. So hope.
Yeah.
And this is a remake of a SNES platformer. The bar's
Well, this
low.
is this is a remake of the arcade original version, actually, with some new stuff, and that almost has me worried because I'm like in my mind
Oh,
because arcade platformers are can sometimes be weird because they're made for arcades. Although I don't know, maybe it'll be fine. Like I've never even played the arcade version. I don't know what the
it
differences are to
sucks.
be
The
honest.
arcade version sucks.
Well, then that's not good.
It's, if I'm being honest, I bought it on Switch. What's that weird bundle, like the Joe Bob arcade
Yeah.
collection?
Yeah, I remember that was a thing I saw that I looked at. I was like, "What the?" Yeah, but I think Joe Mac 1 and Joe Mac 2. They actually Joe Mac 2 came out on Nintendo Switch Online first, which was weird because Joe I had a Joe Mac 2 poster over my bed as a kid. That's something I just remembered now. I was probably the only person on the planet
Oh,
who had that thing around for a long time. I was a big
whew.
Joe and Mac fan, even
Shout
though
out
that
to
game was kind of weird.
the 90s, just the
Yeah.
glory era of cavemen. We had
Yes,
Chuck
apparently.
Rock, Joe and Mac, Congo's
Bonk.
Capers, Bonk. We
Yeah, there was
had
why were so many cavemen?
Encino Man.
Oh my god.
Just, I
I
don't
mean, I know
know.
the Flintstones happened in, like, what, the '60s or whatever, like, we were still riding that wave, I guess.
Still riding that high. Oh, okay. I think that pretty much covers it for online, Nintendo Switch Online, how it compares to PlayStation Plus, how it compares to Xbox Live Gold. What I want to talk about now is some news on Avowed, Obsidian
Mm.
Entertainment's new project. Good buddy, co-worker Jez Corden leaked some details on what Avowed is, what we can expect from that title. Um, have you read that piece? Do you know? Have you heard what was included with that?
Yeah, yeah, it's been a little bit we talked about it a bit on GamesBeat the sides also, so, yeah, I'm
Yeah,
aware.
it's Obsidian has been on a huge hot streak in my eyes. I was not expecting to love the Outer Worlds in the way that I love the Outer Worlds.
Mhm.
I quite frankly was really tired of Bethesda's form. Um,
Yes, I
lo-
agree.
loved Fallout 3, loved Skyrim, got so bored with Fallout 4 instantly.
I'm so glad you're saying this because I was just yelling at Jeff on our last podcast because he's, like, a Fallout 4 defender, like, he likes Fallout 4 the most,
The
and he, like, almost
most?
yes, he, like, wouldn't really I think at first, I always thought he didn't believe me when I told him, like, "That's not a very popular opinion," and I think he came around a little bit, but yeah, you know what? He doesn't like RPGs that much, and I think in his mind, Fallout 4 is more of an immersive sim is what he told me. I think he's full of it. I think that's just a bad opinion of his, and I'll continue to make fun of him for that. But yeah, he's the biggest Fallout 4 defender that I know.
I mean, Fallout 4 was a well-reviewed, well-received game, generally speaking. There wasn't a
Yes.
ton of negative backlash with Fallout 4. If you loved Fallout 3, it was Fallout 3 expansion pack in my eyes. Like,
Yeah, with less interesting RPG decisions.
yeah, the main story in Fallout 4 to me was so painfully boring.
Yes.
And that's why I loved
Whenever
Fallout 3 was the
yeah.
story.
Yeah, as long as I didn't have that like robot detective friend, I wasn't very interested in it. But you know what was great was New Vegas, made by Obsidian. So yeah, like once I realized that, oh, this Outer Worlds game is fantastic. I guess that makes sense because it's just those guys.
So coming off the back of Fallout 4, seeing what the Outer World was going to be, I was a little hesitant to be excited about it because it seemed inherently in that vein, in that formula. I knew what to expect. That being said, it reminded me why I loved New Vegas, why I love Obsidian is they know how to make great characters, they know how to tell a great story. So even though the gameplay wasn't necessarily groundbreaking, it was a basic kind of first person shooter with RPG elements, I loved the Outer Worlds. I would even say that I loved the Outer Worlds more than I loved Fallout 3. And up until that point, that was one of my favorite Western RPGs. I was legitimately blown away by the Outer Worlds. So hearing that Avowed is kind of borrowing that approach and potentially has the potential to do what the Outer Worlds did for the Fallout formula with the Elder Scrolls formula has me pretty excited, gotta say.
Yeah, absolutely. Plus, the timing here is just so good because we know we're not getting Elder Scrolls 6 for a while, and a lot of people want that game, right? So I think a lot of people are going to notice the Elder Scrollsness of this, know it's from a developer that excels at these kind of games, anyways, and that's going to give us a major boost. I think this is going to be one of the most exciting games coming up.
Obsidian, Grounded as well. Like the last several games that they have put out have been incredible.
I
And
haven't played Grounded yet. I'm like I'm weird with early access. I want to wait for them to say, "Okay, it's done," and then I'll check it out. But we'll see.
I would highly recommend it. Again, if you want to wait for the full release, it will have an actual story mode. There
Yeah.
are bits of the story in it now, but it is a survival game. So if you like
Mhm.
Minecraft, like Ark, it's in that vein.
I guess that's my I'm not necessarily a big fan of that genre, so that's probably another reason why I've been hesitant. But like once it's done, I'll check it out. But again, like it's not my thing, so I'm not going to do the whole early access deep dive there. We'll see. Well, I'll see what the finished product's like.
I always do that. I buy into an early access game, grind it, love it, and then by the time it's done and it has a ton of features and it's this fully fleshed game that people love, I'm over it.
Yep.
I'm done with it.
Yeah, see, I don't want that to happen to me. I remember that happened to me back with freaking City of Heroes. I played so much
Oh,
of the beta and loved it. Then when the actual game came out, I kind of didn't play it that much of it because now I'm just repeating stuff I already did. And what's this World of Warcraft thing? That looks interesting. So
ooh, City of Heroes.
yeah,
That's a throwback. Oh my
yeah,
god,
right, right. Let's go back to 2003.
takes me back to when everybody wanted that MMO. Remember Pirates? Remember that Pirates MMO?
Was that Pirates 101 or was that Wizards 101? I can't even remember. I
I
don't
think it
remember.
was just called Pirates,
I
and
didn't play Pirates.
it was bad. They were all bad. Star Trek Online, which is still going
Yeah, isn't
somehow.
that shocking? Well, I talked to those people about that because I love Star Trek, right? And I played that when it came out a bit, and I didn't really get into it. There's just some things I felt off about it. It's still going because they tell me there are a lot of people who the only video game they play is Star Trek Online. There are a lot of just hardcore Trekkies keeping that game afloat who don't care about any other video game.
Which is good. I'm glad there's a
Yeah.
space for them. Maybe that'll bring the resurgence of the Matrix Online, even though they had their
Oh God.
Cataclysm End Game event where they destroyed Lawrence Fishburne or whatever.
Right now he can't be in Matrix 4 because of that. We got to respect the lore.
It's canon. The MMO is
Right.
canon. Sorry, guys.
Absolutely.
That's the facts.
I'll tell you, I have a feeling it's about to become uncanon, but we'll see. We'll see
Ye-
how serious they
We're
were
gonna have
about that.
a Star Wars scenario where, oh, what? He's not dead. What? We'll see. So part of Jez's article also touched a little bit on the Game Awards and when we might see Avowed and when we might see Hellblade 2 potential. So while I have you, what are you expecting at the Game Awards? Do you think we'll see Avowed? Do you think we'll see Hellblade 2? Will we see some new reveals? What are your expectations at?
I think Hellblade 2 is the one I'm really expecting to see. Avowed, I could do a coin flip. Same thing with some other stuff like Dragon Age, Mass Effect. No, but Dragon Age could probably be there. Yeah, I don't know. Gosh, I know it's not that far away, but part of me still like I don't want to think too much about that. The other thing, like not even like on the Nintendo side, we've been hearing about Xenoblade Chronicles 3, like that's supposedly in development, and they didn't show that at their direct. And I'm like, is that the one they're saving for the Game Awards? Is that why we didn't see that? But yeah, Hellblade is the one from like all the Microsoft stuff that they've got cooking that I think I'm really expecting to see.
Yeah, I'm definitely expecting to see Hellblade in some capacity, but also they just gave us a development update at E3, which wasn't that long ago.
It
So
feels like a long time ago.
it feels like a long time ago, but they also said, "Hey, we're in production and the game's a little ways off." So I'm wondering if because of that we won't see. I'm 50-50. If we don't see gameplay for Hellblade 2 at the Game Awards, I will not be surprised.
You think it's more or less likely than Avowed?
I am more expecting. I I'm kind of more expecting Avowed, honestly,
Okay.
in
Okay.
some
Well,
capacity, because we haven't
well,
heard from Avowed in a little bit.
I'll tell you what. If they show Avowed and not Hellblade, I'll owe you a Coke.
Beautiful. Coke Zero or or
Oh,
what?
that's the only Coke there is, really. Let's be honest.
So there's a couple titles we've been hearing about for a little while, and I've been wondering when we might see them. First up, Dragon's Dogma 2. That has
Oh
been
yeah.
rumbling for a while. There's been a lot of there was the GeForce Now leak, which had Dragon's Dogma 2 listed. I loved Dragon's Dogma 1. I've been waiting for something to come to the West in that world. Do you think we see Capcom show up with Dragon's Dogma 2 at the Game Awards?
I could see it happening. There's a part of me that's almost still more like just expects the Resident Evil 4 remake because that has been really what's their big cash cow lately. But I believe that leak, right? So much of the stuff that was in that leak has happened. So I think Dragon's Dogma 2 must be real. So it's got to show up at some point, and it definitely seems like a decent fit for the Game Awards.
What about Silent Hill, Mike? Is that game real? And
um,
if so, are we gonna because Konami was going to be at E3. They told us they were
mhm.
going to be at E3, and then they said we need more time. We'll give you updates on some of our bigger projects later in the year. We saw what was it? They're bringing back Castlevania Grimoire of Souls for Apple Arcade.
Yeah.
We saw Contra as a mobile game. Are those the only big development updates that we can expect this year, or you think they're saving something meaty for the Game Awards?
Oh wow. I don't even want to bet on Silent Hill anything anymore. I'll be honest. I'm going to say no. No one gets Silent Hill anymore. You've all killed Silent Hill. That's what I'm
Silent
going to
Hill's
say.
dead.
Silent
Silent Hill,
Hill's dead.
you.
Sorry. It's gone forever. No, I
Uh,
mean apparently like there's like two Silent Hill games in development, right? And one of them is like kind of on the Sony side, and Kojima might even show up as a producer. I don't know if we're gonna hear about that now, but again, like it's Kojima and it's Jeff Keighley's Game Awards. There's usually something there, and there's that. And Jeff Grubb, my coworker, has said that he's also been working with Microsoft on a cloud gaming project, but it sounds like that probably isn't far enough along to have anything to show. So if he's going to want to have Kojima there, maybe he is just going to have to come with some super early weird Silent Hill trailer thing. Because if anybody's going to get it, it's going to be Keeley. So as much as I hate to say it, maybe maybe we'll see Silent Hill at the Game Awards.
I mean, he brought Kojima out during E3 and basically had him tease that he was working on something.
Right,
It
right.
was a weird, awkward video interview where he's talking about how the world's terrible and it's made him question everything about his life, and he doesn't want to make serious games anymore because things got way too real with Death Stranding. And then he was like, "Oh yeah, I'm working on something else, by the way." So I have to imagine he's going to be there in some capacity. Jeff's already been teasing nonsense as he does,
Sure.
cryptic. You won't believe this reveal kind of nonsense. So
Sure, but usually he can back that stuff up. Usually there is
yeah,
excitement. Like last time he was doing that kind of stuff, it was because he actually had Elden Ring at the Summer Game Fest, right? So, like there's going to be something. It's not like we're going to get through that. It's like, wow, nothing was announced. Things are going to be announced.
there's going to be, I shouldn't say there's going to be, I don't know, but I am expecting several big reveals, several really, really big reveals, especially on the Xbox side. If, the Xbox Series X, the Hellblade 2 reveal, Perfect Dark are any indication of how Microsoft views Jeff Keighley's show, they like it. They like to give
Yeah.
him reveals. They like the big stage. They like the universal presence that offers. So I'm really expecting Microsoft to show up in a big way, whether that's going to be five new game reveals or one new game reveals and some updates. That's to be determined. But there's a lot of studios within Xbox that we know are working on something that we haven't seen.
Exactly.
I want Silent Hill. I at this point, I'm a huge Silent Hill fan. I just want a Silent Hill to be revealed so we can just move beyond these
See,
conversations.
I'm not a big Silent Hill fan. I've really only played 2, which was like, a good game, but
Yeah,
I'm the same way, like, all right, let's just announce it so everyone can shut up. We'll be
please,
fine.
please, I want the saga to end.
If
So,
we
do you
is
really
Abandoned
think?
gonna be there? Are we gonna see Abandoned? There's no way.
Are they finally going to confirm that Abandoned was actually Silent Hill? And God, what was his name? Was it Hassam?
Oh, I don't remember.
It was
I
is Hassam actually Kojima? Is this all
see
finally
Kojima is a deep fake.
the deep?
Oh god.
I just please. Rumors are fun. Rumors are fun. I love
It
going
can
down the
be.
rabbit hole. I do, but there's a dark side to these rabbit holes, and we're seeing it more and more. And the obsession gets a little out of control.
It
And
does.
the Silent Hill saga has to end. Please, for the love of God, stop.
Yes, but yeah, I do hope it shows up in December. But then it won't because like the report was that there's 2 Silent Hill games, right? So now everyone will just be asking where the other Silent Hill game is. So I don't know.
Yeah,
I think we're doomed for all eternity.
if
This
we
is
get
hell now.
one and Kojima is not involved, there's still going to be the cult saying it's coming. Don't worry,
I
it's coming.
I hope you all get a sequel to that top-down action RPG Silent Hill game that nobody liked. That's what you all deserve.
Oh, the PS Vita one, the Book of
Yeah.
Shadows.
The Book of
Ugh,
Shadows, that's it. Yeah, that's what you're all gonna
oh,
get. That's what you
why
get.
would
That's
you
what you
say that?
deserve.
Why would
Because
you?
I'm evil. I'm mean. I'm not a good person.
You know what's sad? You know what's really sad, and I don't even want to admit this,
Hmm.
is that game was the reason I almost bought a PS Vita.
Yeah, I have to get the new Silent Hill game.
That game, that piece of garbage, horribly reviewed multiplayer RPG Silent Hill was almost the reason I bought a Vita. I never did. That's the one handheld I've never owned.
I mean, you should have
Um,
gotten a Vita, just not because of that game.
yeah. Okay, super chat real quick from Harjeet Chani says, "Is the expansion pack going to include more Switch games over time, a la Game Pass?" We touched on this a little
Mm.
bit, but I hope, I really hope.
It maybe include some more like expansions and DLC. I don't think it's going to ever be like, hey, we're giving you arms for free this month, even though they absolutely should, right? But Nintendo doesn't like to drop the price of their games, let alone just give them away, unless they are like 30 years old.
I don't, I don't know. I didn't really get to talk about this last week, but I know you're a big Kingdom Hearts guy.
I am a Kingdom
You're a
Hearts
big
guy.
Kingdom Hearts guy.
It's true. I'm
So,
one of those people.
uh-huh. So were you excited about Sora?
Oh yeah, I was. It's funny because like I didn't ever allow myself to believe that would really happen, even though he was one of the most requested characters and they had a relationship with Square Enix in the games already. I just like couldn't see it. Like whenever my brain tried to think about it, it just didn't process. But they put that trailer together so well that yeah, I got hyped. I was pretty excited about that. I mean, it's just cool. It's cool seeing a big third party franchise character still show up in Smash Bros. Even though at this point it's almost becoming expected and routine now. Like there are still ones that it's like, wow, I can't believe that Sora from Kingdom Hearts is here, like shaking hands with Mario in a high production CG trailer, and like in the background I see Solid Snake or whatever. Right? It's bizarre.
I still remember the reveal of Richter
That was
and
sweet.
Death just murdering Luigi. Like
Yeah.
that was one of the coolest reveals ever. And that was a moment where I didn't think that was possible. I didn't think there was a world where we'd have a Simon and Richter in Super Smash Bros. But seeing that as a huge Castlevania fan got me excited. I'm not a Kingdom Hearts fan, but I was excited for all the weebs around the world who finally got Sora in Smash.
Yeah, oh, it was good stuff. The one I was most excited about was when they did the Mega Man one for Smash 4. I absolutely lost my mind. I think that was the most excited for an announcement I had ever been because I love Smash Brothers a lot too, and obviously I love Mega Man. And that was like one of the first characters they announced for Smash 4. I was so happy. That's the thing with Smash Brothers. I've gotten a lot of my dream characters already. Like I wanted Mega Man really badly. I wanted Ridley really badly, and I wanted Simon Belmont really badly, and they've done those. So I can never really complain. Like I still want Gino from Mario RPG, And like a lot of people, I think Waluigi would be fun, and they should do that. But I can't really complain at this point. I've gotten pretty lucky.
That was my stance. Like I wanted the final character to be Master. Just for
Mm,
that, there's no big first person shooter reference. There's no, I mean, we can say that Steve from Minecraft is an Xbox
sure.
mascot or Banjo, but that's not the reality. Those are not Xbox mascots. So there's no Xbox mascot in Smash Bros. And I was like, come on, give Chief some love. Give us that first person shooter rep. Instead, we got Doom Guy as a me costume, which is something, I
Well, the meat
guess.
that yeah, the meat costume's always the miscongeniality award because they did the same thing to Gino, right? I was like, oh great, now we're not actually getting him. There's a while where I thought Doom Guy would actually be like an addition before they got bought by Microsoft. I thought that was going to happen, but nope.
But no. So again, I'm the same way. I going into this reveal, I got Richter, I got Mega Man, I got pretty much I got more characters than I could ever imagine. So no matter who it was, I was still going to be really excited and happy about the legacy of Smash Bros. I just didn't want Sora. Like
No,
just
I love it.
yeah, I know people do. So many people love it. Mine was just rooted entirely out of spite because so many people online were so annoying about Sora in Smash,
Oh,
and I was like, no, it can't be Sora. Don't let it be Sora.
how do you not like Kingdom Hearts? You like action JRPGs. We've established. You like the Mana series. What do you have against Kingdom Hearts? What do you have
Okay,
against my
okay.
boy Sora?
Let's have this conversation, and
Oh
I
no,
want to because I know you love Kingdom Hearts, and
I
I
do.
infamously don't. Kingdom Hearts came out at a time when I love Disney. I absolutely love Disney. I loved Final Fantasy, and so
See, that's how I was.
when I saw Kingdom Hearts, I was like, "Whoa, I get to play the best of Final Fantasy and the best of Disney in this amazing RPG. Let's go." Bought it day one. Got a PS2 pretty much for Kingdom Hearts. I was ready to go. Little old Miles was ready to dive into Kingdom Hearts. Played it for about 5 hours and I was like, "This is dumb. This is a really dumb story. This is so even as a dumb teen who didn't really no, I wasn't even a teen. I was like, when did that come out? Was it 2000?
2002. How old are you, if I may ask?
I am 32.
Okay, so you're a couple years younger than me.
Yeah,
So,
so
and
I
I think
was
I was probably like, I'm trying to think what I was probably like 14 when this came out. I'm guessing. So you might have been 12.
yeah, okay. Yeah, I was going to say I don't think I was quite a teen, but I was of the era. I was in my JRPG heydays. I was grinding JRPGs on the regular. I don't know why. I don't know what it was that didn't well actually I do know why, but I expected it to click. I was ready to love Kingdom Hearts, and I couldn't. I just could not. I didn't like the edge lord Final Fantasy vibes mixed with the whimsical Disney. It was like this yin and yang that was just the worst of both of those elements to me for some reason.
Well, first off, it is dumb. Like you said, it's not like yeah, it is for sure. And honestly, as I get older, some of that stuff bothers me a little bit more about it. Kingdom Hearts 3 was sometimes a little too much
The Door of
into
Darkness.
yeah. But so you say you like Disney. How much do you like Disney? Because my thing is, I really
See,
like Disney.
you probably love Disney more than me, but growing up, we had the collection of almost every single animated VHS from Disney.
Hmm.
So I've seen pretty much every Disney movie at this point on the animated side.
Right.
Love the Pixar stuff. Really love the Pixar stuff. Um, that being said, I don't have a Disney podcast, so
Right.
I probably don't love Disney as much as you do.
Not that it's a competition, but yeah, I mean, God, yeah, like video games and probably Disney, like it's almost probably almost equal in terms of like liking things from corporations for me. So it's always been a big part. So Kingdom Hearts has always felt like a game that was made for me, and
So
I think that's why.
sell me on Kingdom Hearts.
No,
Tell me why you I know I just I want to know why you love Kingdom Hearts the way you do.
well, yeah, I love it mostly because of that mishmash. Look, I like just any game where I am in a party with Donald Duck and he's casting Final Fantasy spells just can't be bad. I'm going to love it. And the hook of going to the Disney worlds that always kept me going, even if maybe moments were slow or dumb because I wanted to see. what the next Disney World was like. Sometimes there'd be the costume change, or it's like, oh my gosh, we're Jack Skellington from Nightmare Before Christmas is in my party. And I was at a point where Nightmare Before Christmas was like mildly more obscure. It had like a resurgence right around then, so that was awesome. But I like the combat in it, I really do, especially in the first one where it's a little slower and a bit more methodical, and you can really kind of have a magic build or you can have a melee build. That's a always felt good to me. Plus, there's certain complaints that like in video games in general, I find myself almost immune to. Like anytime people complain about a camera in a video game, I'm always like, it didn't really bother me. Like all the big examples, like some people can't play Mario 64 anymore because of the camera. People talk about Kingdom Hearts having an all-time bad camera. Almost anytime people like this game's camera's bad, I'm like, yeah, it's fine. I got through that. But yeah, like I think it really does just come down to how much I liked Disney, which is a whole ton, and I just really want to see where that went. I think liking Donald Duck specifically helps a lot because he's just all over the thing. But then there's like auxiliary stuff, like the incredible soundtrack that really gets me. Even as dumb as the story gets, it has some pretty good highs there. Gosh, especially like the part where Beast joins you and some of the stuff there. There's some good stuff. So I never want like I get why people don't like Kingdom Hearts. That's why I scoffed a bit at, like selling you on it. Like people always want me to get Jeff to play Kingdom Hearts, and I'm like, I don't want him to play Kingdom Hearts. He hates Kingdom Hearts. I don't want to. I'm not going to change his mind. I get it. It's not going to be for everybody, but for me, it's always going to be something that I care about and go back to.
Yeah, it's one of my best friends loves Kingdom Hearts, and he's for years tried to, get me to, and I've tried. I have tried multiple times to play Kingdom Hearts. I tried replaying the first one a few times. I tried 2 at launch, and I tried 3 at launch. So I have given it a fair shake. And it's one of those series, like I talked about. I always wanted to love it because
Sure.
especially when it first dropped, it was my jam. It should have been my jam, and it was just one of those weird moments in time where I don't know. I don't know what happened. The stars didn't align. My brain said, "No, this isn't for you. You can move on." And I think that's okay.
Yeah, I think a lot. I tell you what, if you didn't get into it like when you could, I think that's probably like you're never going to. It's not like you're gonna, especially Kingdom Hearts 3, you're not gonna jump into that and suddenly have it click. Oh no.
Oh, but I appreciate that. Again, I know you're a big Kingdom Hearts fan, and I know a lot of people are, and it's been one of those franchises that I just kind of I don't necessarily beat myself up over not liking, but I don't get why
Sure.
I don't like it or why I
I
didn't like
mean,
it.
it does have problems. You're not trust me, you're not crazy. Like I get it, especially as I get older. Like I get why people don't like Kingdom Hearts, but it was right place, right time, and I'm the right person for it.
Yeah, so
Giant
seeing
fucking nerd, apparently.
yeah, just a big nerd
I
willing to
allowed to drop the f bombs here. I should have checked before I just did that.
I mean, we keep it PG mostly. We've had a few slide every one. I think after the first 10 minutes you're okay. YouTube doesn't really flag it, but
Okay, sorry.
yeah, I try to
Like
keep PG cuz some people,
I was about to say PG-13. I'm allowed one, but damn.
yeah, okay.
Okay, well, all right. Calm down, Mikey.
No,
I'm getting saucy now.
you're getting spot. Oh, bringing the heat. All right. Well, we're coming towards the end of the show here. So Mike,
Oh, now you're kicking me off before I swear
yeah,
anymore.
we're done. Wrap it up. Turn it off. Turn off the camera. We're done here. No, we're coming up on 2 hours, and I try to keep it about 2 hours. But I really appreciate you tuning in, man. For all the awesome people hanging with us. One more time, let them know where they can get a hold of you.
I'm on Twitter at Tokoto, Tolkoto. Check out GamesBeat Decides on Friday. Last in the 10 Dogs on Tuesday, and 90s Disney. We have new episodes go up on the first of every month. 90sdisney.com.
90sdisney.com. All
There
right,
you
and to
go.
all the amazing people who joined us, thanks so much for tuning in. We will be back next Saturday at 12 p.m. Eastern time, and have a fantastic weekend. Take care, everybody.
Bye.